There's a new docuseries titled Supreme Models that centers around the evolution of the Black supermodel and their impact on the fashion industry, the civil rights movement, and American culture.
There is nothing like a Black model on the runway.
This is the Black Girls Coalition.
If it wasn't for them, we would have been overlooked.
We can't move forward without Black creativity.
The new generation, they want a revolution.
How can you not love this melanin?
We're not going back to the old days of just one token model.
This series is based on a book by the same name, Supreme Models, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Fashion. It's published by my friend, my journalist friend, Marcellas Reynolds. He's also an executive producer on the 6-part series, and he joins us now. Marcellas, thank you so much for being here.
Hi.
Hi. It's so good to see you. You know what? Beauty. This documentary is so amazing. But before I get to there, I want to talk about the book, because the book, you know, I remember when you were I have my book too, okay? And you signed this one. I remember when you told me that you were going to write this book. Talk to me about that process and how it unfolded into what we're seeing now with this 6-part documentary with Vogue and YouTube.
The book it's kind of funny that I partnered with Vogue on this, and they're the host channel at YouTube for it, because the book became a response to a book by Vogue, British Vogue, that came out in 2011. I bought that book. It was super expensive. And there were like 100 models in that book, and there were only 2 Black models. And as a fashion historian, that incensed me. And if you go this day to Amazon, there's a 1-star review, because I was like, where's Tyra Banks? Where's Veronica Rebb? Where's Leah Kavidi? Where's Alec Weck? There are more models than just Naomi Campbell and Iman, even though they are 2 of the greatest models ever. And that's the point of my book, and that's the point of this documentary. I want to tell the stories of models that could possibly be forgotten in history, because we always sort of center on the same 3 or 4 models. And there are so many who have done so much to change the culture.
You know, Marcellas, you're right. We do always seem to center on the same 2 models. And I know that there are more that have done so much for American culture. So speaking of that, you know, there's so many models that you chose to feature in the book. And I know you did it for a particular reason. Are there 2 that sticks out that you can tell us about, the ones that we may not know, that you can tell us about why you chose them and their contributions?
I'm always going to sit in the seat of history. I'm always going to talk about the ancestors. Like, that's my love. That's what I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about the people that crawled through glass so that the people now can run. Okay. So when I talk about Black models, I talk about Donyell Luna, who was the first Black woman to appear on the cover of any Vogue. In 1966, she appeared on the cover of British Vogue. And advertisers in southern states promptly cut their advertising, and subscriptions went down because the southern states actually canceled their subscriptions. And I want to talk about Naomi Sims, the first Black supermodel, truly the first Black supermodel. She was the first Black woman on the cover of Life magazine in 1969, and that was major. 14 million homes. She was also the first Black woman on Ladies' Home Journal, and that magazine had subscription base of 14 million people. 14 million homes across the United States saw a Black woman, a dark-skinned woman with natural hair on the cover. There it is, on the cover of a magazine. That's major. Yeah.
That is major. History in the making. We love to see that. You know, why do you think this has resonated with so many people? You know, it's like these models and what you did when you started this book. It's not as if they were waiting to be seen, because we've all seen them, but it seems as now they're being seen in a different light, acknowledged for their contributions to the industry, to the civil rights movement, and beyond.
I think it has something to do with the pandemic, and the Black Lives Matter protest. Black people were fed up, and we wanted to scream our stories to the rafters. We wanted to control our narrative. And now you have like critical race theory that's trying to cut us out of the picture. Black people aren't here for that. And I think now it's not just about like somebody else telling our stories or our stories being told. It's about us. It's about us telling our stories because we know the history, we know the richness, we know the full birth, right, of what we've gone through. And I think that moment in time really opened the door, and social media opened the door to this idea of people really telling their stories in their own words, controlling and contributing to their narrative.
Controlling and contributing to their narrative. I love that. You know, let's talk about the docuseries. I watched the first 2 episodes. It is amazing. Tell our soulmates what we can expect to see during this 6-part series.
Well, I partnered with the Queen, Iman.
Yes.
And you know, very high standards, honey.
Yes.
So the documentary had to look a certain way. It had to be completely factual, and it had to celebrate all the assets, all the facets of Black women. So you're going to see the history. We're starting in like the late 1950s, actually, and we're starting in the 1960s. And so you get this kind of rich tapestry and that parallels what was happening in America at the time, because it was also happening in fashion. But you're also going to get a great cast, one of the greatest fashion documentary casts ever made. Edward Enninful, the editor of British Vogue, Anna Wintour, the editor of American Vogue, Zendaya, ladies and gentlemen, who some people don't know started her career as a child model. And then you've got every single major model from the decades. You've got Karen Alexander, you've got Beth Ann Hardison, you've got Veronica Webb, you've got Pat Cleveland, one of the legendary models that walked the Battle of Versailles. You've got Joan Smalls, you've got Precious Lee, who is like literally the #1 model in the world right now. It is an amazing cast. You got Sergio Hudson.
Yes.
Fashion designers, honey. We're not just centered on models because we want a full, rich accounting of the story, right?
Yes, 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 yes. It is so good. Like I said, I've seen the first 2 episodes, soulmates. If you have not seen it, you definitely want to check this out. And while I have you here, I know you have another book, Supreme Actresses, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Hollywood. My girl Viola Davis is on the cover. This is the first ever art book dedicated to celebrating Black actresses. You're just giving everyone their flowers, and I love it. Really quick, can you tell me about this book and why you decided to do a book focusing on Black actresses?
Well, once I was finishing Supreme Models, actresses like just came to me because models often segue into acting. And then once I started sitting in that sort of history, I don't want actresses like Lena Horne or Josephine Baker or Eartha Kitt or Ethel Waters to be lost to this fog of history. You know, we're in this like sort of Instagram, TikTok era where we're not talking about the queens. We're not talking about the history anymore. And I don't want people to like forget about them, right? So now there's a place, there are these beautiful books that people can go to and they can learn not just about Viola and Gabrielle, who wrote my foreword, and all the girls that are doing it right now, but they can learn about the ancestors. It's really, for me, always going to be about the history. These people walked before. We're standing on their shoulders as we move forward.
As we move forward. Marcellas Reynolds, author, journalist, executive producer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, beautiful.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.